price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
If you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
Malcolm X warned us generations ago about how sneaky and deceitful white liberals can be. Not to say that Democrats or conservatives are any better than the liberals, but the fact of the matter is that liberals and conservatives have the same ideology. Liberals and conservatives have the same ideology, as in they want to maintain the system of white supremacy. They might differ on how the method of white supremacy should be dispersed throughout the people, which is against black people, but their goal is the same. Just like the wolf's goal and the fox's goal is the same goal, which is to eat the sheep. But the thing is that they have different methods. The wolf comes off mean and aggressive, and the fox is very sneaky and deceitful. The liberals' biggest methods is the fact that they pose as if they're here to support the black community and they're here to support black people. I made a video about this not too long ago, but if you look back, you can see where I broke down how the welfare system destroyed the black family, and the liberals and the Democrats knew that it would do so. I made a video a while ago about the welfare system and how the welfare system separated the black family by removing the black man's presence from the home. Another thing that the liberals did was they introduced a feminist movement in the black community when the feminist movement was not needed in the black community. While it's true that white men are oppressive and sexist to women, it is not true that black men are the same way. Black men have historically been uplifters of women and supporters of women. But what the white feminists did was they removed the word white when they talked about male oppression, and they just said male. This gives the image as if males are up here and women are down here. So when a black woman confronts a black male, she's having the image of, okay, I'm a female, I'm right here, you're male, you're up here, when that's not the case at all, because white supremacy does not work that way. There is a male privilege, but it's a white male privilege, and white feminists know that because black males do not have any privilege over any females. So the movement of this venomous white feminism was boosted with the support of black women, and it also had a negative effect on the black community by making the black woman have disdain for the black man because she believes in the ideologies and the notions that were taught to her by the white feminist. Their biggest method is to deceive and confuse black people. A perfect example of this is the definition racism. Racism, by its full definition, means a racial system of oppression. So what they'll do is they'll blur the definition. So they'll say racism isn't really a system, it's an ideology. So a white person can be racist, but a black person can be racist too. Everybody can be racist, and nobody's racism is worse than anybody else's racism. Even though white racism is the racism that oppresses black people, blacks racism, which blacks by definition cannot be racist, blacks racism cannot oppress white people, but with the confusion of racism is just an ideology, white supremacists get to push that narrative. So thus became the notion of, I can't be racist, I have a black friend. I can't be racist, I date black people. I can't be racist, I love black this, I love black this, when racism has nothing to do with hate necessarily. White people have disguised the word racism as, I hate all non-white people, and if I'm around a non-white person, I'm gonna spaz out. So if I don't act like that, if I don't behave in that specific way, if I'm not no blatant, crazy Nazi, then I can't be racist. That's a way to disguise their racism, just like the fox disguises its intentions with the sheep. So now that black people are starting to understand white supremacy better and starting to understand that black people can't be racist in the true definition of racism, what they'll do now to keep the racial hierarchy, they'll have buffer classes. These buffer classes are meant to protect the white hierarchy, the white superiority at the top. But what they'll do is they'll disguise that as if white supremacy in white society is sitting at the top on this golden pedestal, and all people of color, which really is non-black people, are equally at the bottom. So when you have racism from people of color, when there is anti-black racism from the buffer classes, we are not really used to it. We can't fight it off because we've been tricked into thinking that racism can't come from someone at the bottom. But the thing is, they're not at the bottom with black people. Black people are the only people at the bottom, but white people have tricked a lot of black people into thinking that all non-white people are equally at the bottom and that white people are the big target. So we miss and we let our guards down when it comes to these other classes. There's a big push about anti-Asian hate because there's a narrative going on in the news that Asian people, due to the stigma of the coronavirus, are being randomly attacked with spontaneous hate crimes, specifically and especially from black people, and that they need exclusive protection, exclusive, special, specific protection from the hate crimes that black people are committing onto Asians. Okay, here's the trick. The white liberals know that Asians have an anti-black history. Asians have a very anti-black culture. So they will protect the anti-blackness within the Asian community. But if they push the narrative that black people are attacking the Asian community, they'll say, okay, well, they're minorities too, so it's not racist for us to focus on them more than another minority because they're the ones who are being targeted at this moment. So let's give them extra protection, let's give them extra resources, when what their real agenda is to do is to strengthen the buffer class. They do this with the Hispanics as well. Hispanics can come over illegally and they get to go to sanctuary cities where the police can't harm them, where they get jobs, where they get housing, and they get access to capital that black people have built, and black people are being denied more than any other person, even people who are non-citizens. This is why the median black wealth will reach a level of $0, and no other ethnic people of color will reach that level as well, because white supremacy works off of its economy, and white supremacy knows you can trickle down the economy to your buffer classes, and that will incentivize them to target black people, because black people are the only true target, because black empowerment is the antithesis of white supremacy. Another method they do is now they're trying to teach and lead people as to what white supremacy is. And now we're talking about intersectionality. Now, the concept of intersectionality is people can have multiple identities that intersect. Like, for instance, I am black, I am a male, I am an American. All of these identities intersect with each other. What they'll do now is they'll get ahead and they'll try to teach black people about intersectionality. And with that notion, they'll push the narrative that black men have male privilege. Earlier in the video, I've already established that the concept of male privilege does not exist. Now, white male privilege does, but they erase white and they'll just put male there as if all males have equal power, or there is some power in being born a male, which is not the case. So white liberals and their non-white buffer classes are out to teach white supremacy, but when they're teaching white supremacy, they're misguiding black people. So they'll take the word privilege, which means a right or an ability that is bestowed upon a person or a group, and they'll blur the definition just like they do with racism. So now privilege doesn't mean a right that is bestowed upon you by a system. It just means an advantage that you might have. This gives them the ability to push the narrative that black males have an advantage over black females because males have an advantage over females, when in reality it's just white males who have an advantage over females. Because if you ask, how do black males have privilege over any females, especially black females? They'll say, okay, well, look at male privilege and then look at how women are oppressed by that. Look at the patriarchy. But the thing is, black men do not control the patriarchy. Black men don't even really benefit from the patriarchy because it doesn't work like you're black, you're at this level of white supremacist targeting. You're a woman, you're at this level of white supremacist targeting. So if you're a black woman, you're at the level of a black person's targeting and you're at the level of a woman's targeting. That is not how white supremacy works. White supremacy works off of the threat that you are to white supremacists. A black male is specifically micromanaged, specifically policed, specifically targeted because the black male is the only group of males that are a threat to white supremacy. Just like the black females are the only group of females that are a threat to white supremacy. But what they'll do is they'll try to push a divide between the black men and the black women by saying the black men, they're really only out for themselves. Black women, don't you have to fight by yourselves? Black women, don't you have to struggle by yourselves? Black men are not protecting you. Black men are not manly for you. Black men are not doing this for you. They don't really love you. The second they get any money, they go date a white woman or a non-black woman. Black men are colorists. Black men think you guys are ugly. Black men this. All these narrative statements about black men to implant a venomous thought that black men have disdain for black women, which is not the case. Black men who are married, statistics have proven this, statistics have always proven this, are married to black women. Most black men prefer black women, but that's not what they try to push. They'll take a celebrity that's married to a white woman and they'll blow that up on television, they'll blow that up on social media to push the narrative that if a black man gets success, if a black man has access to a white woman, the black man is going to go for the white woman. And the only reason that a black man is with a black woman is because he doesn't have access to a white woman. That is not the case. That's an utter lie. But that lie is to plant the seeds that black men are anti-black women. Now, when it's a black man who does something bad to a black woman, they'll blow that up on social media. They'll push that narrative, like Ray Rice or Chris Brown. They push that narrative to imply that black men are so violent to black women. Black men don't love women. But when it's a white man who does far worse to a black woman, they're very, very silent about that. They don't want to push that narrative, like Chad Wheeler, who almost killed his black girlfriend after she disobeyed his orders to bow to him. He beat her almost to death. He thought he killed her. He came in the bathroom when she was talking to the police on the phone, eating cereal, saying, "Oh, you're still alive," because he thought he killed her. But the white liberals who are so pro-black women won't push that, won't say anything about Chad Wheeler because their agenda is to protect white supremacy. So even though they say they are going after men, they can't really go after white men like that because they can't push the narrative that white men are toxic like they tried to push the narrative that black men are toxic. Speaking of toxic masculinity is another statement that black men are told that we are all the time. That's the narrative of there are traits that men have and they will exaggerate those traits, like men are naturally assertive, so they'll say, okay, well, we'll take assertiveness and we'll dial it up to 11 and we'll say that's controlling, which is a trait of masculinity, which is toxic masculinity, and they'll point that to a black man. They'll point that to a black man and they'll say, see, black women, black men are so toxic, black men are this, black men are this. They'll somewhat do that a little bit to white men so they can give the perception of their being unbiased. They'll give the perception of their not racism, of them not being racist, but they really go after white men like they go after black men. Look at the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement, their main target was Bill Cosby, but they didn't really go after Harvey Weinstein until the black grassroots kept pushing Harvey Weinstein to the spotlight. And then they had to go for Harvey Weinstein. They'll say, black men don't care about black women. Black men are not protecting black women. But the thing is, they said that masculinity was a bad thing for black men to have. So they pushed a narrative and they pushed an agenda to emasculate black men and then blame black men for not having the protection, the urge to protect black women that is naturally embedded in a black man's masculinity. Another narrative that they push is this: the degendering of black men and black women, by saying that gender is a human construct and it really has no definition. It shouldn't really exist. When they say that, they're saying that men and women, the position that men and women have in society and in the world, is completely interchangeable. That a woman can do everything a man can do just as easy, and a man can do everything a woman can do just as easy, when there is very, very differences. Not to say that one is better than the other. It's a balance between men and women that we are naturally as human beings supposed to have, but they're trying to destroy that balance, especially within black people. Sojourner Truth spoke about this with Ain't I a Woman. When Sojourner Truth was talking about Ain't I a Woman, she was talking about the fact that white supremacists did not recognize the womanhood within her. She was talking about how the racism was so oppressive that they only saw her as a Negro. They did not recognize the womanhood, so they did not treat her like a woman. That's what she knew. Now, she fought for the rights and the womanhood of black women, because black women and black men are the only people who recognize fully the womanhood of black women. But they don't recognize that because they do not believe that black people are humans just like white people are humans. To them, they are thinking that black people are 3/5 of a human, just like they used to call us back during the slavery times. That wasn't just for political purposes, that was embedded in their ideology, that black people were 3/5 of a human. So that's why intersectionality really does not apply like how white liberals and their buffer classes try to make it seem like it applies, because when you're black, you will be black first, you will be a Negro, and they will see you as nothing more than a Negro, which is a 3/5 of a human being. This is why I'm perfectly fine with the death of Breonna Taylor, Sandra Brand, Atiana Jefferson, all these black women, Latasha Harlins, all of these black women, they are perfectly fine with that, because they do not view black women as human beings, just like they do not view black men as human beings. We are the only groups that view each other how we are supposed to be grouped. My brothers and sisters, it is very important for us to understand the deceptive nature of the white liberal and to fight against their agendas and their ideologies.